final game of the season, Emmen, not the best team in the eredivisie, understatement, 3-3. David, all the way from Canada, it's been a while. Last time was last season. We still had Ten Hag as a coach. How much would you like to have Ten Hag back as a coach?
That's my God, man, what I would give to have even a half competent manager. I would take De Boer at this point. Like, this is just a disaster. And I've been someone who has actually kind of been a bit understanding of the circumstances with the transfers and stuff. But after this game and after, Vitesse, even if it was a bit unlucky, Schreuder out, man. This is just a disaster.
Yeah, it's now for you. It's now, Schreuder.
Yeah. I mean, even a little bit last game, even if it was unlucky, I think you just need to get over the line. You need to win these games, and we failed every single test. But now we're failing against teams that we should be beating very easily.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just been a disaster. What's going on?
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the game itself. So the starting 11, how the game evolved. Your view on this one.
So starting 11 wise, I thought it was fine. I kind of had some raised eyebrows about Kudus being dropped, which for me is rare, especially because Taylor has not been that good lately. I don't think. And I have to give Schreuder credit in this regard because Taylor, I thought, had a very good game. I gave him a 7, two well taken goals. So lineup wise, I didn't have any major issues and stuff like that. Obviously, the start of the game, even the first 5 minutes, it was just like, oh, this is not going to be an easy game. Even before they scored a well taken free kick, I was kind of starting to fear the worst. Have to give Ajax credit for a quick response, even if it was a goal that the keeper obviously should have had. 3-1 at that point. I thought it was a pretty smooth first half. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. There were some individual mistakes at the end, but 3-1 going into the second half, I thought we would probably win this game 5-1 or something like that. And then those 45 minutes happened, and honestly, man, as an Ajax fan, considering the quality of the opposition, that was probably one of the worst halves of Ajax that I've seen. I mean, we can say at this, at the end of the game, we could have very easily have lost that game. So it's just a disaster, and I'm down as an Ajax fan. It's a shame. So not happy.
Compared to Vitesse, the argument that was brought up also by the coach, by Schreuder, is that it could have been 8-2. We had so many.
I mean,
This one is different. This one is different, right?
Yeah. Well, this one is different because it's like, it's not like their keeper had a world-class game or we hit 4 posts and stuff like that. But it was just like the balance of play, I expected goals and stuff like that. I know it's not a perfect metric, but like Emma could have very easily won that game. And just the lack of fight that I saw in the team, in the amount of individual errors, that's extremely concerning. And there's no excuse for that. And we talked a little bit about this before, but I've kind of been someone who I'm a bit sympathetic of the situation of Schreuder. The amount of players that we lost, the key players that we lost towards the end of the transfer market, like those are big. That's a big issue, and I think any manager would struggle. But you look at our lineup and you look at Emma's lineup, that is not a game that we should be losing, or should be tying. It feels like a loss, quite frankly. So I mean, almost everybody I thought had a bad game. I thought Tadic, I do have to give him some credit. He's had a frustrating season. It's not been a great season for him. He's clearly a player who is not as good as he was a couple of years ago. But I thought he had a strong game. 2 assists, could have been 3 assists. And then Taylor, I thought, again, two well taken goals. Everybody else, I mean, I kind of gave average and in most cases below. It's just, it's completely inexcusable at this point.
Yeah. So I want to touch upon the thing you said that you were sympathetic with Schreuder, but this one is a drop basically for you, this is too much now. How much can we blame Schreuder? And I'm going to put this on the table. How much can we blame the players? Do you think the players are giving everything? Because people do that as well, whether they're fighting for their coach, yes or no.
Yeah, so it's interesting because this is a game that this is the first game, or sorry, the last game before the World Cup. And kind of I thought about, and it's also on artificial turf, correct?
Yes.
So I was like, I was kind of wondering, like, how much are people going to be super motivated for this? And I gave Alvarez the lowest grade because, I was watching him and like he was not tracking back at all. He was not I mean, I don't remember him really going into one of his, copyrighted hard sliding tackles and stuff. He showed such little fight. So I'm kind of wondering, like, maybe Schreuder didn't like motivate these players enough before the start of the game, because we kind of like half-assed it, especially in the second half, where it's just like I didn't really think many players gave 100%, and it's a disgrace, and then I mean individual errors, like Schroeder simply can't be blamed for Bassi completely misjudging the flight of the ball, or Berghaus keeping multiple players on side and then missing like a 99.9% chance. So, I blame this on Schreuder, and, I gave him a 5, which is not terrible, because I didn't think his lineup choices were that bad. But, I think that this is, Schreuder's fault. He needs to be able to get the most out of a lineup that is still, I think, quite strong. Is it as strong as last year? Absolutely not. But, I mean, you need to be to be beating Emma 100% of the time. Our commentator mentioned that in the 5 games prior, we had only ever conceded 2 goals total to Emma, and we conceded 2 goals in one half, and it could have been more. So
I have another stat for you. I have another stat that was shown here. This is the longest streak that we didn't keep a clean sheet since 1985 in all competitions.
Exactly. And I mean, sometimes when you see things like that, you'd be like, oh man, like what's the keeper doing to have things like that happen? But these are not goals that the keeper can do anything. I mean, on their second goal, Timber, completely like passive and static, not getting in front of his man. I mentioned the Berghaus one, which really was, I mean, I can't believe they didn't score that. So there's just a ton of individual errors. Players are not sharp. I think Timber is really suffering from a lack of competition potentially. I mean, his competition.
How much? Yeah, but how much is that competition in your view? I have a slightly different opinion on that. Just quickly, how much is it because of the different players around him compared to last season?
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, but if you look at the Vitesse game, I mean, Timber basically had 2 terrible passes that should not have happened, that resulted in goals. I mean, I don't think you can say that. I mean, yes, you can attribute, okay, well, he doesn't have Licha with him, or he doesn't have Mesraoui, who are able to, the rare times he did make a mistake. But quite frankly, I mean, like, I don't have stats on this, but I feel like I have seen more individual errors from Timber in the last month than I've seen in like the year previous or something. He is not playing nearly as well as I expected him to, and I don't want to pin this loss on him. He did not have a good game, but it's a combination of individual errors. I think motivation. Also, there was one interview, I believe it was after Napoli, that was extremely telling. And Napoli, don't get me wrong, they are an incredible side. I think they're going to do something special. But just kind of the mentality that Schreuder had, which is like, oh yeah, well, they're a step above, and and then but it's like 90% of the game is mental, right? You need to have that killer attitude, and it's like I don't know if it was Roy Keane or someone that said like 90% of the game is won in the tunnel, where it's like before the game starts and you're coming out and like you're staring down the other team, where it's like I feel like our body language must be like, like we're resigned to defeat, or like we don't have that fear factor that we used to have. And like,
the commentaries here before the game even started, they quickly mentioned that even Emmen right now, they feel like there's something to be, they can get maybe a point out of it. They're confident. It's not like Ajax last season or the season before.
So no, I mean, Ajax last season, it was like, okay, are we going to win by that famous 5-0 score? Do we feel like a nice 9-0? Like I think we had against Cambura. I think we had some games 6-0. Whereas this, it's like, oh, you know what? Well, maybe we'll tie. It's just, and I don't think that all of that is down to Licha being gone, because I know he brought a lot of that, like that strength, that steel, that grit that we need. I think it's a combination of the manager and the individuals, and there's just so many things wrong with this team. And again, I am sympathetic to Schroeder for the personnel situation, but I think you need to hit the reset button. I really, really do. And I think kind of now is the right time to do so, when you have a nice 2 months, break, and hopefully the players can reset and, come to January with a new coach, because this simply can't continue, because at this point we'll be in the Conference League based on the league standings.
Okay, last question from my side regarding what you just said. I've asked this question before. How much of a risk is it because if you let Schreuder go, you have to find a new manager. And the problem with Ajax is we don't even have a technical director. We don't have somebody in the supervisory board, because Blind used to be that guy that supervises the football part, and he's now with Van Gaal. So maybe he'll come back after. But there's so many football persons, people that are very important for the football part of the organization, the technical part, that are missing. How much would that help us if we just say goodbye to a coach and get a new coach without these people in the organization?
Well, that's a very good question, and quite frankly, that's just poor planning on the part of Ajax's part, where you have a major vacancy for this long. I mean, that's something that should have been taken care of quicker. So here's the thing. I mean, I think that it kind of depends on who the replacement would be. So Peter Bosz or something like that, you kind of know what to expect with him. It's not, a lot of people have said this. I think Gallardo guy from River Plate, that's a bit of a wild card. I could absolutely see it working out. Or the coach from Norway, from Bodo, Knudsen, I'm not sure of the guy, but those are kind of wild cards where it could be an absolute disaster and we find ourselves in 8th or something like that. But with Bosz, who, he speaks the language, he knows the media and stuff like that, I think kind of there would be a predictability factor. So, if you ask me right now, would you swap Schreuder for Bosz? I would absolutely take it, because I think that, he's a bit of a known commodity. You know what you're going to get. If it's if it's Schreuder for Gallardo, that could be a bit of a risk. So, quite frankly, no, I'm still on Team Schreuder out, and I would be much more hopeful if Peter Bosz was hired in this break that we have.